What's up, guys? It is Retro Gamer Gabby, and today we are going to be cleaning my GameCube. As you can tell, she's a dusty little thing, but I've also had this system for about 7 years, and I only cleaned it just the one time when I first got the system. So we're due for cleaning maintenance very much late. We're going to be starting on a slight trend on my video game collection, because I will say the fact that I don't have any GameCube games is concerning. But here's the disc tray, and she dusty. There's one of the fans. Let's close that. Yeah, check that out. Yeah. It's not as dusty as it was when I first got it, but it is dusty. And then this. So, to clean a GameCube, first off, I love that it has its own handle, by the way, is you want to remove these three plastic pieces for the ports, all the ports, Game Boy Player and whatever, what have you. This is a GameCube that's a little bit more desirable because it gives you all the cable options and everything. So this is a more desirable, plus this is the color I would have gotten it in when I was a kid growing up, if we could afford multiple consoles. We were lucky we could have the PlayStation 2, we did. So anyways, to undo a GameCube, you need to have a game bit screwdriver, and you need to take out the 4 screws in the bottom of the system. Once you remove the 4 screws from the bottom of your console, you'll be able to turn it around and pick it up, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Alright, so you just turn your system around and just pick up like so. Alright, so now that you have this taken apart, there are many screws here that you'll want to remove so you can clean every bit to this. This was incredibly dusty, so I will admit that this does need a good cleaning. Let's see here. I think that'll come off on its own once I get this removed here. But you need to remove, and I guess I should say, the game bit screwdriver is now out, and now you are down to Phillips head screws once you get inside the system. So I'm gonna remove all the screws to the top of this lid here so I can clean this all properly. And you're able to push the buttons down here and remove those as well, and down there. And then there's gonna be one here for the mechanism. So I'm gonna get those all removed. So this is what my lid looks like after taking it all apart. Here's the internal pieces, and here's the external pieces. So now we're going to start working on the disc system, the lens. We're going to take apart the motherboard. So we're going to start taking some Phillips head screws out, some tiny ones here for the controller port, and some here to the RF shield. I was able to get this siding off. You want to be careful because there's more screws to this RF shield underneath this fan. So before you start yanking at it, go ahead. And then when you get to these here, by the way, these are longer screws, so make sure you note where these screws are going. And also there's one right back here as well. And as well, you remove this plastic back and it reveals more screws to the RF shield. Alright. Now I was able to remove the disk drive and the little bits of the front of the console. There are 2 screws that hold this motherboard in so that you can clean this front plastic bit. And for this part, there are 2 little separate tiny pieces of metal RF shielding. And there are some tiny screws down here, so if you would like to take this apart and kind of clean up your lens especially, I definitely recommend it. So I'm going to start doing that, as well as I'm going to start taking some of the RF shield off of the motherboard and get these pieces out so I can start cleaning these. The screws that go into the RF shield have little washers, so that's something to take note of. But look at that dust. Whew. She dusty in there. So this is a very much needed What else are we held on with? Oh, okay. We're starting to get somewhere. All right, I'll get to this and I'll show you what comes out afterwards. I was able to pry this up very slowly and gently, but this is your motherboard of your GameCube. Intricate, but compact. So there's going to be 2 screws holding this piece of the RF shield up, and then we'll be able to get to the underside to undo this fan and clean up other parts down here below. So once you get that bottom piece of RF shield, there's a couple RF shields being held here. You can remove these and clean them with alcohol, probably not water, probably best not to. Oh, those are, okay, those are kind of like tabbed in there. And then you'll have 4 screws in here, and this is where the power all happens and all the capacitors. So you'll want to get this out, unhook this fan from right here, and you'll be able to take this RF shield out and be able to clean all this as well. Alright, so I got to the bottom of the system. I removed these parts to clean them, and now I'm at the disc part, and I got to pass the RF shield. I'm going to remove the remaining few screws that are on the bottom of this motherboard to clean this properly. And to clean this stuff, all the electrical parts, obviously don't stick it in water. You'll want to clean it with isopropyl alcohol. If you have 100%, fine. I have 91%, which is about the next best thing you can get. Alright, don't mind the drying setup. It's the best place I got, but every plastic piece here is going to be drying from the hot water and Dawn dish soap soak and scrubbing that everything got. So everything's been cleaned well, and everything's going to dry here. And then everything here is dried and cleaned. I need to make sure that no dust really gets to this, because that is an important thing that you don't want to get dirty, dusty, messed with, what have you. But other than that, everything here has been cleaned. Every piece of motherboard has been cleaned, RF shield cleaned. This is everything that you see, and it was dirty. These were all from the electrical components, so everything was dirty. Alright, sorry about the change in workspace. My fiance is gaming and I needed a quieter environment, but I'm in my living room right now. I am reassembling the GameCube. I'm going to put the plastic piece back over the controller ports. I so far have put the buttons back in to the top, and I have the plastic piece for the light indicator in there. And then I'm going to, I also put the GameCube logo back in. I'm going to source through pictures and remember how the springs go in. I have the springs oriented here. Here's one of the rotator mechanisms and everything. And then you also don't want to forget these 3 pieces that go down here, so that way you can screw back in everything correctly. RF shields and everything was cleaned with alcohol Q-tips and all components. I even got dust that I could around the RF shield, or the heat shield, and I made sure I cleaned. It looks like this is the power capacitor, so I made sure everything here was clean and every contact looked good. No bulging or anything on the capacitors or anything like that. Cleaned the fan blade around this. And I'm very happy with the outcome of everything. We're gonna start assembling the lid back together, putting in all screws that need to be, and I made sure I remembered which went where, so we should be fine. So I'm gonna reassemble the lid first. All right, now that I fully have the lid put back together, it took me a minute to get the mechanism. My fiance had to help me with that one. You can start putting together the bottom part of your GameCube. So these pieces go in here like this, and they look, so this is where your bottom screws will go into. And you put one here, and right here where it's under an RF shield. So you start putting the RF shields back where they're supposed to be. This is the power supply, and I need to reconnect this to here. and re-screw everything before I proceed and start putting the rest of the RF shields together. And also, to reconnect these, you'll need the 2 screws, Phillips head screws, that hold these together. Now I have this reconnected and I have this bottom RF shield assembled. We are now going to happily reattach the motherboard and start placing in the 6 screws that held in the RF shield here, inside here. I've reassembled and placed the ribbon cable back into connection, and I've replaced this over the memory slide slots. So now I am going to put the screws back into the RF shield that covers the bottom of the motherboard to the disk drive. Okay, so when reassembling, I had to move this back piece off, but I had to maneuver it so that this portion where it hooks onto and latches to the motherboard was in, and as well ensuring that these metal pieces were remembered and not forgotten, because I've forgotten to do that before. So you'll want to remember that these long screws go into those 2 there and 2 there, and then you'll want to start reassembling the motherboard or the RF shield together. You won't put this piece on until pretty darn near close to the end, but you'll want to remember that it's this piece over here. Okay, so when reassembling the RF shields, you want to make sure that the 3 screws underneath here are screwed in before these 2. And you'll want to make sure that this one hidden in the corner here is screwed in before you even put this on. These 3 are here, and then there are 5 over here. So you want to make sure that you keep count of those and that the 2 here go in last. So everything's in working order. I even put this in the right way. So now we're okay to place our lid back onto the system. All right, now it was just the back plastic piece fighting with me. Now you can test to see how your buttons are doing if you did everything correctly. So your open and close button. This is your power button, clicks in, and as long as your reset button, and there's your power light. Now we can safely turn this over and start putting the game bit screws back in, so make sure you have your game bit screwdriver handy with you. All right, now all my screws are back in, and I put all the plastic pieces back in. You have now safely, I just cleaned this table and it's dirty already. Dang cats, sorry. Anyways, the system is now reassembled and it's put in correctly. Hi guys. What you're looking at isn't even a GameCube. This is going to be my next video coming out, which is my Atari 2600 cleaning video. But I wanted to put in a tidbit for the GameCube video that I did end up buying a GameCube game for the system, but I realized even though I purchased this system with controller, AC adapter and everything, I cannot find the controller or AC adapter for it. I know I've moved 3 separate times in the last 5-6 years. So somewhere in this house is my GameCube controller and everything, but I cannot find them in the spots that I think that they're at. So I have ordered the AC adapter and controller, but I am posting the video because essentially I've delayed it too long and I want to put the video up. So I have it completely cleaned. I just didn't test it. I'm going to have those components come in the mail. I'm just tired of waiting for snail mail. And I will eventually either post on Instagram the final conclusion of the GameCube video, or I will post it here on YouTube. But obviously, as you can see, I am moving forward and going to be putting up an Atari 2600 cleaning video. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up next.